Avero Live. I'm Avi. I'm the founder and CEO at Avero Advisors. We are a third-party independent consulting firm that focuses on the local government in the U.S. and helps them modernize their technologies, either through better strategy or introductions to new and upcoming and groundbreaking technologies like Polymorphic. So today I have with me my friend Parth Shah, CEO and founder at Polimorphic. And if you want to know what that is, I'm just going to turn it over to Parth to introduce himself and his company.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Avi, for the introduction. We've met at quite a few conferences. It's really exciting to put this together. I love this program. So quick story on Polymorphic, where we sit, has a little bit to do with my background too. So I'm an engineer by training. So I started my career doing electrical engineering, computer science at MIT. I was really invested in the AI world, so I ran the machine intelligence community there for 2 years. At the time, we thought AI machine learning was already such a big thing, and this was years and years ago. So it's only gotten more attention now. It feels like every year that goes by, it couldn't get more of a big thing, and it does. So spent a lot of time there. Also worked at NVIDIA for a bit, but what brought me into local government is kind of twofold. So one piece of it is my family background. So my grandfather was a utility director his whole career. My grandmother worked in state government doing marriage licenses. And I always joke, it's not like they knew anything about what local governments would use AI for. But I think the piece that, coming from the technology world, a lot of the technology world, even until recently, but especially over the last 10 years, has looked at government. And I think everyone recognizes that we can do a better job with customer service. We can do a better job in government with, getting constituent services delivered. But they look at it, and often these private sector companies blame the public servants, right? They say, oh, it's because they don't care or whatever. And I, my family being in public service, I knew that wasn't true, right? I think the truth is you sometimes have these solutions that are great fits in the private sector, and you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. The needs are completely different, right? We were just talking about social services before we hopped on here, and that's a very unique department, right? They have very unique needs. So all that to say, then spent some time at a smart city startup, really got to see the challenge around customer service. What we kept seeing was this cities, counties, state agencies handling the same phone calls over and over again. About 50% of the calls, there's the same questions. They're on the website, but the website's so hard to navigate because these governments offer so many different services. And then on the back end, they really spend a lot of time on using email essentially as like a CRM system. And so that's really what led to Polymorphic. And so we're an AI customer service platform. So we have what we call an AI concierge, which is AI on the phone system, the chatbot, the email, SMS, so all these different touch points. It's specifically built for governments. We have some unique algorithms that I think we're the only ones to do, really, is like how we work with municipal codes or county codes, ordinances, policies, and then that feeds into a system on the back end, which is actually helping them deliver that service. So yeah, it's a long way of saying, it's AI customer service, and governments, that's really what we're in, right? We're a customer service organization when we're world of government.
No, that's fascinating part. And you picked on a real good niche there, health and human services.
Yep.
Very similar to also public housing, where you have multiple language constituents that want services. We had a client in California, the Bay Area, that had, when you walk into their offices, they had 16 different languages on every notice.
Wow.
And how do you staff such an organization with people that can speak 16 languages? Yeah. And I think that's one of the problems you guys are solving too with your product. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. I mean, you talk about multiple languages. Generally, staff, you can get someone on the front desk who's handling these calls. I mean, obviously they'll speak English. Sometimes you have some folks who are bilingual, speak Spanish. But a big challenge is you can't often serve all your residents. So either they pay for really expensive translation services, but even that isn't really as on demand. Right. So it's neat with our AI voice systems, actually supports already 28 different languages. You can call in English, Spanish, but all these other languages too. And it'll answer your questions and help walk them through that service. So we have a county we work with in New Jersey on the surrogate court side, and they really pushed for Bengali. they have a really large Bengali population, and they don't speak. A lot of them don't speak English as even a second language. So right now, what's been happening is they're not served. Right, that's essentially what happens. Is there's no way to service that very important constituency group, and so housing is a great example. We see it a lot in like surrogate courts, but across the board is you want to reach out to all your constituents, right? As government, you have the mandate. You can't. It's different from the private. You can't turn down any customer, right? We are having to serve every single customer, and so that's something that's very exciting. Is the multi-language on the chatbot side? It's 75 different languages over email, SMS on the website.
So speaking of chatbots, chat box is open.
Yeah.
Send your comments, send your questions. We'd love to hear where you're tuning in from, and also questions for Parth, because it is pretty unique, the product. So everyone's talking about AI.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't open LinkedIn, and I live on LinkedIn, right? I can't AI this, AI that. So Here we go again. So what is the future of AI, or for constituent services?
Yeah. So especially there's a lot of great development that's happening at we call the large language model level, which is like the open AIs, the Anthropics of the world. I think what's important though is how does that get translated into these public sector contexts, right? And so for constituent services, where we're at right now, what we've done, I think a really impressive job on, to shout out our technology team, but spend a lot of time on, is accuracy, right? So how do you answer questions on, we're joking about the background here, like a swimming pool, but it's a question like, can I build a swimming pool in my backyard? That's not a simple yes or no, right? It depends on what I'm zoned as. It depends on what the code says. Most chatbots fail immediately right there, right? They can't have that follow-up, and they don't understand, well, it depends on your address, right? So based on your address, I can look up what you're zoned as, and then I can give you an answer, yes or no. There might even be different, with fences is a common one. I can build 6 feet tall if I'm zoned as a certain thing. Otherwise, it's 8 feet, and it needs to be certain distance from energy generators. So that's like in a level of where we're moving towards is beyond simple Q&A. We're moving to multi-stage, complicated questions. And the second thing we see in the future is being able to conduct actions. And so there's a big difference between that, right? Which is right now, when folks call in and they ask, hey, how do I apply for this thing? That's great. We can answer that. But where we're really moving towards is like, hey, do you want to apply for that right on the phone? Yeah. So a good example is solid waste, right? So we help solid waste on the CRM side a lot, digitize intake, things like that. But if you miss your trash pickup, most people are frustrated. They're going to call in, right? And if you're working 9 to 5, you might call in at 5:30, and you're not going to get a hold of someone, which is a very frustrating experience. Mm-hmm. And so now what we're building with a lot of these solid waste departments is you call in and we'll say, hey, what's your address? What's your what they missed? Was it trash, recycling, both? Perfect. We're just going to go ahead and log that ticket for you. And we're going to reach out to the contractor we work with automatically. And this has not touched a single staff member, works 24/7. It's their solid waste team, which has all these other jobs, right? They have to do, accumulation pickup, things like that. But they're stuck with 75 calls a day that they're handling. They're now able to redirect to the parts of the job they want to be doing, right? Not okay, let me just write that down, email our contractor, et cetera. So that's really a big opportunity.
Yeah, and back to health and human services, there was a concept, it still is, but back then we really started digging into it. No wrong door approach.
Yep.
You get all of my information. Why do I have to give it again when I go seek a different service?
That's right.
And it's very complicated to do in a traditional database.
Yep.
That's something you guys are trying to crack too.
That is exactly what we're trying to crack. And so right now it's funny. We're in North Carolina, meeting with a lot of our counties. We work with we're about to cover 25% of the state with the counties we work with. So really like becoming a really critical part of the infrastructure here. But with social services, exactly what you're saying, there's so many different divisions, right? So you have adult Medicaid, child welfare services, food and nutrition, and they all handle the same applications. But to your point, most constituents are not going to know which division to go to, right? In fact, they don't even know that I'm going to the Department of Social Services. Usually the way they think about it is I'm going to the county, right?
The government.
And the government, actually the government in general, right? They might go to their city sometime and realize that's a county, it's a county administered program. So That's what we're actually doing, which is really cool with the AI. We rolled out this thing called connected communities. So our city customers, where we have the county customers too, it'll automatically direct them to the county. So if I ask the city, how do I, apply for food and nutrition services? No problem. It's connecting with the AI we've already built with the county and directing them there. Also with the applications piece, regardless of what division you think you need to go to, the voice AI knows how to answer that and direct you to the right individual. So instead of the phone trees of press 1 for adult Medicaid, press 2 for food and nutrition services, it's just, hey, how can we help you? I'm going to try to answer your question first. That's saving staff time. And then if you need follow-up, if you want to, check in on application or whatever, we're actually going to get you to the right individual. We're going to get you to the right caseworker right there.
Well, it's almost like you're giving an extra super smart, experienced caseworker, right? Because this isn't a tech problem.
Yeah.
It is on your end, but for a customer that's seeking social services, I don't know who to call.
100%.
And if I had a caseworker in my pocket on my phone speaking my language, I could get all of the answers when I tell them what my problems are.
That's right. And I think across the country, one of the biggest challenges, I would say social services is where you see it the most acutely, but this is across the board. So most of these counties, they have over 50% of their staff in training. And one of the biggest challenges are on retention, right? So hiring is already really difficult, but that makes retention even more challenging because I need to retain my folks. And if they have an 18-month tenure, because it's so frustrating, like I'm working on my case and I get called every 2 minutes, so I got to keep restarting, right? Not only am I not getting the work I need to get done more easily, but also retention is really hard, right? That's not the part of the job people sign up for, right? They want to contribute. They want to make sure that, folks are getting the benefits they need. Answering repeat questions, the same 75 questions every day, I promise you that's not on the JD and that's not something that people sign up for, right? Yeah. So they're doing it in spite of those challenges that make their role harder.
Yeah, and I'll jump into a question here, but I've got a question about this question. Data, right? Training needs data, and a lot of counties, especially that administer health and human services, and I'm sticking to that topic because it is the best use case for your product.
That's right.
And sometimes they don't have the data. It's in Excel sheets, it's in old databases that don't, APIs. Like, how do you guys deal with that? And then how long will it then take to navigate complex data or models?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So the most common format in government, right, is PDF, right? Yeah. Some stuff is in PDF, right? And that's a whole other challenge with accessibility and things like that. But what's neat is we've actually invested a lot of time in being able to ingest content from non-websites as well. So I mentioned the code as an example. So we support like code native. And so to even the question shown up here on changes in zoning, like it's automatically re-updating the moment there's an update on the code. And it uses the common code platforms like Municode, eCode. But with PDFs, that's a big one, right? We actually can bring in PDFs. We can even read non-scannable PDFs. So if it's not even text readable, we're using OCR to actually pull that content in and build it into the knowledge base. And so it's really amazing to see. I think we've had folks, people don't believe this with technology. Like it's honestly crazy, but people don't believe it when we say it. We've had folks go live with these AI voice lines, the AI concierge, so to speak, in less than 2 weeks, because we've invested so much time on our side, making it very, very easy to ingest common places where their content sits. So website's an obvious one, code's an obvious one, but bringing in those PDFs, bringing in those Excel files, FAQs, all those things, and pulling that all in very quickly.
How are you getting past the what seems to be pretty ubiquitous sort of feeling that it's not safe, privacy? Because we go talk to clients about AI. It's like, ooh, legal said no, or IT says no, and there's no real reason for why. They've read something somewhere or gotten scared about something. So how do you guys get around that?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So there's a few things. One, on the security side, right? We are SOC 2 compliant. Everything's encrypted in transit at rest. So we have like the highest security practices to make sure that is the case, first off. And we run all in AWS US servers, all that. The second piece is with AI specifically, I think the valid big concern that a lot of folks have and what's paused some AI usage is the data being used for training, right? So if you're, we've been using health and human services as an example, like you have sensitive data you're working with.
Yeah.
Number one thing is you cannot use that data for training. So what's great on our side is, one, we're partnering with OpenAI and these firms and running at the enterprise. And so we basically have the data can't be used for training as part of the agreement. And so that is really, really valuable, right? Which is now that it's, I think in general in government, this is something that we're hearing more of, and it's a wise thing. Is like, who owns the data? And so we've been able to bring that back to the county, bring that back to the city, while still leveraging the power of AI behind that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so let's see what other questions. What specific, Corey's calling in from South America. In what specific ways can AI help government agencies move more reactive models to proactive while maintaining trust, transparency, and accountability?
That is an amazing question. I'm gonna give there's two that come out. So one, the first one that is very specific, and I think is, you see it in a lot of ways, and people don't realize this. Governments have a very big challenge when it comes to how they staff. Is how do you think about seasonality? So I'll give an example. In Ryan County, North Carolina, they run a energy assistance program. So in the winter, there's an energy assistance program they run.
Yeah.
It's seasonal though. They don't actually run in the summer. It's only in the winter when you have that need. So let's say I'm building a call center, or I need a front desk operation to handle that. How do I staff for that? Do I staff around the year for max capacity, or do I staff around the year for what the common distribution is? It's a tough budget question, right? If I staff for max, I'm spending a lot more resource. I could be spending millions and millions of dollars more than I should be most of the year. But then in the other case, I'm not serving my constituents as much as I could be. And so what happens is it becomes very reactive, right? We try to ramp up, and then if we see volume increase, we pull it up later. The amazing thing about this voice AI is it can handle 2,000 calls at the same time, and then it can also be doing 2 calls at the same time, right? So it becomes a approach of, we can handle capacity as it comes in. And the second part to being proactive is the data, right? So a lot of folks, if you ask them, hey, do we have seasonality in our calls? Are we seeing a new type of pattern in a new set of questions we weren't expecting? Right now, you only find out about that until it escalates to a point where the council members are hearing those frustrations. And that's because without the CRM, without the AI logging it, it's really hard to know across an organization that, hey, we're getting a lot of questions about this development project, and everyone's calling in about it. No one knows that right now. And so that's another piece that people forget, is like, there's utility just in time saving, value for staff, value for constituents, and better customer service. But for leadership, the data analytics is extremely valuable, right? Which is, they're now, for the first time, they actually know trends on what are people calling in about, what are categories of questions we're receiving.
So I know this is front end customer service. You're solving a really important problem.
Yep.
You mentioned leadership and data and reporting. If I'm the director of a department, I want to know trends, demographics, types of calls.
Right.
What sort of reporting engine do you guys have on the back end?
Yeah, so it's pretty great. We use this service. So we have our standard kind of dashboarding and reporting out of the box that we come with. But what's pretty cool is we're able to actually open up SQL level access just to their data. And so they can build custom dashboards on top of that. And so that's really great for IT teams. Love that, because they sometimes have customized dashboards they want to build on top. So it's a service called Quill we use. But short answer is, you can think of it as like, if I wanted to connect to it, I could in theory run Tableau or Power BI style visualizations on top, right? And so it puts that piece, it's more about getting the data to them, having that SQL level access for custom dashboarding.
Yeah, and Jim brings up a good point here. Analytics and suggestions will take over for dashboards, right?
Exactly.
For reporting, traditionally you're thinking a PDF report with several lines on it, but really what I want to get to is natural language. I want to talk to Siri and ChatGPT and be like, hey, how many people called in today for cash assistance?
Exactly. Yeah. I think Jim's point is great. Like, why do we use dashboards? Is to visualize so we can get an answer to a question or some trend I'm looking at. Eventually, it's just like, I'm going to ask it, like, what is the trend? What is that? And so that's another piece that we're very excited about.
Yeah. I know you said you can go live in 2 weeks.
Yep.
A lot of vendors say, and software providers are infamous for saying things like that and
Yeah.
saying 6 months go live on a utility billing system.
Right.
We know we've got proof points that prove that otherwise, right?
Yep. I
You're
agree.
making a tall claim here. Tell me what the minimum requirements are for a client to be onboarded. Like, I know you don't turn clients down, you can't, but
Yeah.
um, what is it? If I have nothing but typewriters, can we still use Polymorphic?
If you have a website, you can probably use it, and if you have
Okay.
a place where your content is, right? And I'd say most cities, counties, state agencies fall under that.
Yeah.
And I will say it depends on the product, right? Like our CRM and workflow piece, that's where we're coming in, working with them to help build the more complex pieces. That takes time. Don't get me wrong. That's not a 2-week process.
Okay.
But with the AI concierge, the chatbot piece, SMS, we basically done a lot of the pre-work to set all that up. We built all those integrations out. And I agree. Like a lot of people say 2 weeks, they've never done it. We've done it.
Yeah.
I'm saying 2 weeks on the conservative side. We've done a few on the first call. So like we come in prepared with it. It's just taking the work. Our big belief is our government customers are already so busy. We're going to do as much work for them as we can so they have their life is as easy as possible. And so that's part of it. To them, it looks like 2 weeks. For us, obviously, we're doing a lot behind the scenes, but makes it easy for them.
Well, and it also goes back to a couple of weeks ago. We had a live stream with someone that said software is going to solve specific problems, so you
Yep.
don't have to buy a whole thing.
Right.
You don't have to replace your older thing. And I
Yep.
think that's where you're going to, where you're solving what's your most pressing problem. We'll solve it today.
Right.
The next level up will be 2 weeks, and then so on and so forth.
It's building it in bite-sized, blocks, right? It's almost like using the right dosage as you move on. So like we'll start with that. And social services we established that's a big project, right? There's so many different elements to it, but for us, what that our big thing is, we want to build trust with our customers, right? We want them to know and that hey, we're different, right? We are really focused on the customer service experience. When we say 2 weeks, we could do 2 weeks, right? So we start off with that bite-sized piece, and then almost inevitably, I was just visiting with a few counties. Now they're saying, hey, we want to bring it to this department, and this department, and this department. So they pick their early adopters or their priority departments, get the success there. That's really quick. And then from there, we start to build what I would say is like a longer term partnership. Hey, like how can we help you with your full AI journey on customer service? Because it's a significant part of 90% of your departments.
Yeah.
So
Hey, I think so. I know we have a hard stop. We'll have to do a part 2, but tell people where they can find you more information and
yeah,
get in touch.
so our website's a great resource. It's Polymorphic, POLIMORPHIC.com. My email is just my first name, Parth, PARTH, at POLIMORPHIC, polymorphic.com. Reach out to me. I love hearing from folks who are adjacent to local government, in state agencies, at counties, who are thinking about AI. Like we really take a very consultative approach, if that makes sense, when it comes to people thinking about it. And so we're happy to be a resource too. And I know Vera's doing amazing stuff there. So really excited for having y'all having me on, and reach out with any questions on AI. We love to just talk AI and government. We nerd out about that.
So do we, Parth. Thank you. And if we didn't get to all the questions and comments, but Parth, feel free to go in and answer. They're all on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And we will see you next week. This will be on our YouTube channel. Please go subscribe. And it will also turn into a podcast and blogs and all the other wonderful things. Parth, thank you for your time and good luck.